here, the other one's there. I'm pretty sure that's me. It is me for sure. Yeah, because she's right next to me. That was her life. So there's Sean there. Yeah. And these are our friends. Yeah. You really
Up Jilida, Deliusin Nicole, Wadasi Nani Gay Pegason. I'm Nicole Fougere, and I'm very proud to be the Executive Director here at the Rotary Arts Center, and it's an honor to welcome you to this space.
Gwe Deluisi, my name is Kelly Vodden. I'm a faculty member with the Environmental Policy Institute. Oh, at Grenfell campus, thank you. And I would like to welcome everyone for joining us at this special event, which is co-sponsored by the Rotary Arts Center and Grenfell campus, in particular the Marine Biomass Innovation Project and the Mi'kmaq Perspectives on Sustainability class, spearheaded by Avery Velez in collaboration with Chief Rhonda Shepherd and St. George's Mi'kmaq Band. Thank you for coming as well. And offered for the first time this year as part of our environmental policy program. We're really excited about that, and we were able to have Elder Marshall as a guest at our class yesterday. On behalf of myself and the organizers, I would like to acknowledge with much gratitude that we are gathered here today on the unceded traditional territory of the Mi'kmaq peoples, and to acknowledge with respect as well the diverse histories and cultures of the Beothuk, Innu, and Inuit of this province. I would like to express our deep thanks to the Mi'kmaq peoples of Mi'kma'ki for welcoming us to their territories and communities, and for continuing to steward and care for the lands and waters that we all enjoy and depend upon in so many ways. Wilalio. But of course, while such an acknowledgement of gratitude is genuine and important, land acknowledgements are not enough. And tonight is an opportunity to think more about what our presence here in Mi'kma'ki means and how we might live better together with each other and from our various backgrounds and with our non-human relations, as well as the role that various forms of knowledge might play in that effort. So with that, I'll ask Nicole to introduce our guests.
Thank you. Yeah, and when you speak, I feel your ancestors listening to that acknowledgement. This exciting event is only one of the many events run by Mi'kmaq artists here at the Rotary Arts Center in the last month or the last few weeks. We're so excited to host the exhibition by Matthew Perrier. Did you see that as you were coming in? It was amazing. Check it out on your way out as well, too. Thank you, Matt, also for leading the sealskin pin workshop. That was really wonderful. Yeah, give him a round of applause. It was great. Please stay after the event for a reception in that beautiful gallery space and take in some of that amazing artwork. We've also got 2 events led by Douglas Walburn Goff, who wrote the book Crow Gulch. He's got a book launch here next week for his new book, Island. I hope you'll check those out too, and I hope I see you again. But more than that, I hope that this is a space where you feel like your voice can be heard, where you can pitch an idea, and where we see a lot more Indigenous-led events. And I would like to say welcome to our friends joining us online. Thank you for being here today. To be kind to our friends online, I would ask that when a member of the audience would like to speak and you've got a comment or a question, that we try to catch that on the mic. So Kelly and I will have these mics and we'll run up to you and we'll try to get you to say it into the mic, or we might repeat it after you so we can make sure everybody can really hear you. And I say thank you to you for helping everyone feel included tonight. Now, our guests don't need much of an introduction, right? Right? Yeah. But they're amazing. So I'm just curious, who here has seen Dr. Erica Samms-Hurley dance? Yeah. Yeah, amazing. Yeah. Erica is a Mi'kmaq woman from the west coast of Newfoundland and has a direct family connection to the community of Flat Bay from her grandmother, Samms. She is a dancer, an artist, a social advocate, a nurse, and a winner of several awards, including the Queen Elizabeth II Diamond Jubilee Award. Erica obtained her PhD of nursing from the University of Alberta, and I love this. Her dissertation was exploring Mi'kmaq women's thoughts on the word heart. Beautiful. Elder Dr. Albert Marshall of the Moose Clan lives in the community of Eskasoni in Unama'ki, the unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, known as Cape Breton Island in Nova Scotia. Albert is passionate and curious, and it is most often asked to speak about protecting Mother Earth and the environment, the protection and the continuance of traditional knowledge systems, the survival of the Mi'kmaq orthography and language, and integrating Indigenous knowledge with mainstream science. He is the recipient of too many awards to name and was recently recognized for the exemplary role he has in the enhancing the lives of others and awarded a Lifetime Achievement Award as a professional champion by the Canadian Council of Psychotherapists Association. Amazing. Now, we want to make them feel really welcome, so I told them that you would cheer really, really loud. Are you with me? Please welcome our guest to the stage.
I probably don't even need to get these two started because they have so much to say. But I will just ask one question to kick things off, and maybe a couple more as we go along. And there will be an opportunity for everyone in the audience if you'd like to make a comment or ask a question a little later on. But maybe we can just start things off by asking Elder Marshall if you would mind telling us a little bit of the story of how you and your late wife Mordina came to the principle of Etuaptmumk, or two-eyed seeing, and what it means to you, and then maybe Dr. Hurley, you could respond to that.
Well, Annie, many moons ago, it became obvious to our community called Eskasoni in Cape Breton why there isn't more Mi'kmaq students going into the university, especially in the field of science. And when that question was brought to the elders, their response was very simple. They didn't ask or they didn't demand to increase the Mi'kmaq content in the institutions, but rather they said, we have to weave our ways of knowing into the mainstream. And as these discussions were going, what we call over the tea diplomacy around the kitchen tables. It became obvious to us that rather than refer to it as a Mi'kmaq perspective, can we come up with another concept that would coin it? And when we looked around us, we can hear and see. I don't know how many of you remember Chief Dan George. Chief Dan George was a very highly respected, not only an actor, but also Muskegon Indian. And reading over his quote he made in 1967 in his famous speech, when he said, "We shall take the instruments from the white man. His ways and his ways are known and being. And we'll take those and mold them and weave them into our ways of knowing. So we too can be heard and seen." And in conjunction with that, there was another famous elder called Chief Charlie Labrador, when he made his famous quote, when he said, when you go into the forest, you will see all these different species of trees. But if you look under, you will see these roots holding hands. And these roots are holding hands, supporting each other, informing each other, and loving each other. And he said, we, the people, should do the same. And with those two quotes, it became obvious. Wouldn't it be an expedient if we can coin something that would reflect on the wall of creation, including humanity, in which we all have two eyes. And of course, we see everything from our identity lens, in our case, from an Aboriginal lens. And we know that we were never meant to be alone. So we'll use the other lens to constantly seek other perspectives, because the system that we are working under, is very complex. And it's next to impossible for any one group or any one individual to become intimately knowledgeable and connected to the whole creation. But we can, within our own geographical area. And then, of course, that concept became much clearer. Can we use this concept to unite ourselves? To somehow find a way as to how can we embrace the spirit of co-learning, learning from each other, sharing our stories. Then another idea came up and asking ourselves, what constitutes a relationship? And it became clear, in which we can now honestly say the fundamental principle of any relationship is through the exchange of stories. Because through this exchange of stories, we will all get to know each other, not just where we came from or why we are here, but the gifts that we bring forth. And once this relationship is up and running, let's walk together forward, embracing the uniquenesses that we bring forth, and use those uniquenesses or the gifts that have been given by the Creator, and to use those for the benefit of all. And that's the key concept for us, because when we say benefit of all, our efforts, our phrases should not only benefit humanity, but our efforts and our phrases has to benefit to the rest of our creation, to our non-human relatives. So thus, this concept of two I seen was somewhat became a reality. And today it has somehow resonated across the country, not just as a catchphrase, but a phrase that requires action. Each and every time we invoke our two lens, it's not meant to question the integrity of your action or of your phrase, but how we as individuals can enrich and enhance that perspective. So the outcomes of our efforts will be much more effective to the ones that solely depend upon us. So this is pretty much in a nutshell. And just to reiterate, this concept has to be action-oriented, because again, you're not looking at an issue or a phrase to question the integrity of it, but rather how can we as individuals include our own perspectives to enrich the concept so the outcomes could be much more beneficial and effective for the ones that need it. Thank you.
Well, first I have to say what an honor and a privilege it is to be up here sat next to you, Elder Albert, and to be able to share time with you and have conversation. And I think over the last couple of days in our conversations and what you just said really resonate with me because of my experiences. So we grow up and we're forced into a colonial system, which is the school system, for example, in which we're taught Western ways, a Western way of thinking and doing and being. And it never really sat or resonated with me. How do I just stop being me and only look at it from one certain lens through this very scientific or westernized approach? So when I came across and read about two-eyed seeing and your guiding principle, it really resonated. And I said, this is the way it should be woven within all things so that we feel not just an other, but a part of, and to build on that knowledge. And it's so prevalent because I took that and I was able, within my research work, my PhD work, to look at cardiovascular issues within Indigenous women, specifically Mi'kmaq women. And I went to community members and I talked to community members who were involved and I said, is this important? They said, absolutely. The heart is so important. And I said, I have to now not only be a colonial thinker, which is hard when that's what's enforced in you and expected as an output, right? And how you may be evaluated. So I said, no, I'm going to approach this just asking Mi'kmaq women their thoughts on the word heart, because how can healthcare providers or other people approach this if they don't even understand it the same way that we do? So the women really allowed me to journey with them and to really force myself to reconnect with who I am and to allow that other way of thinking, my Mi'kmaq thought process, to really come forward in all my being, doing. And one thing that I always think about is I'm just me. I'm just Erica. There's no Erica the professor. There's no Erica the mom. There's no different hats that I can take on and take off. And I've always kind of felt I had to play a part. And within that experience, I learned no. So I like to just say how thankful I am to you for sharing that kind of perspective and your thoughts on it. So, Lolly.
You know, each and every time when I am given the opportunity to see another day, I have to humble myself and thank our Creator for allowing me to see another day. And not to look at the challenges that I might face today, but rather look at how can I transform my efforts to benefit the ones that need the most. But first of all, having come from a matriarchal society, I first have to thank our Creator, the She, for allowing us to be blessed with all this tremendous female energy that we will need to get us through. And then also express appreciation for all these wonderful creatures, wonderful beings, that we might be able to get an opportunity, not just to extract, but for them to share their female energy. Because it's just like the negative and the positive. We need both of those energies. So the work that's going to be before us will be achieved with much easeless effort, because we're going to be living according to the responsibilities that we have been given, and that always look positively. Yes, there was a lot of negativism in the world, but we can't focus on that, but rather focus on faith and allow ourselves to constantly function with love and compassion. Because with love and compassion, it will prevail. It will overcome and overpower all those negative energies that we may be confronted on a daily basis. As well, thank and be appreciative of what we have. Not what we need, but what we have and need. And that is friendships, love, understanding, and appreciation, so we can fulfill our inherent responsibilities of ensuring that the task that we will accomplish while we are here will not only benefit our families, our communities, our relatives, but also we'll be rest assured that the future generations will thank us for the efforts that we put forth, so that their opportunities should be greater, that they'll have a better environment than the ones that we came upon. And hopefully they will also be able to mitigate some of the oversights that we generations have made. And obviously we have made a lot, because when we look around us, we can see clearly through the actions of all of us, we have created our source of life, our creation, that she can't no longer sustain herself with the rate of extractions. She can't no longer cleanse herself with the rate of injections of toxins into her. And if she can't regenerate herself, and if she can't cleanse herself, what's going to happen to us? So that then should motivate all of us. Put all our differences aside and transfer those differences into a positive. Those positives should be, only look at the best in what this person can bring forth, and use those bits, uniquenesses. And we will employ those uniquenesses so we can walk forward together with those uniquenesses. And our outcomes will be much more effective. And the future generations will thank us for that. Because I believe she needs us more than ever. She needs us to extend our helping hand to the creatures that have been eradicated, creatures that have been misused. And if they can't regenerate themselves, I think we should be there for her to extend that helping hand to ensure that the future generations would be just as lucky and productive as we are. So this is really the essence of 2IC, looking at everything from another perspective in a positive way. Because negativism is such a draining energy. It can deter us. It can move us into one direction. It can dilute our objectives. But if we look at our current situation with both eyes, then I think we will set the path forward in which we were all intended to have. No matter where we have come from, no matter what your cultural background is, we have been all given gifts, and for those gifts to be used mutually, so the outcomes would be much more improved and better, so that not only this creation, but also the ones that will follow us, the future generations, will have a better opportunities. Thank you.
It's just every time I hear you talk, there's something new. I'd just like to bounce off of something you said. I've been lucky to have grown up in community and have some great individuals who help guide me and continue to work with me and guide me, mentoring. But I also have to recognize my ancestors that walk alongside me. And in saying that, I think what's been instilled and taught in me is the different ways of knowing and recognizing that this knowledge and this energy that you speak of and being is within all things. And it's my responsibility in the way I act, the way I show up, what I do, in all things, to be respectful and to reciprocate and to enact my role and responsibility as a Mi'kmaq woman for taking care of Mother Earth, for ensuring for the next 7 generations. And I think why 2IC is so important is that it weaves in that ecological responsibility and that essence of who we are as First Peoples of the lands and stewards, like we talked about earlier. But going beyond just that word, we talked about the sustainability, because I'm taught I just don't want to sustain Mother Earth. I want her to thrive. I want her to be the best that she can be. And we're no better than the rocks under our feet. And I think that's why 2IC is so important for that action-orientated piece of this guiding principle.
And now, at this point in our times, we are also in trouble. We also are challenged. We all know demographically we don't have no clout, because only 7% of the population, we only make up 7% of the population. So we need you, our brothers and sisters, to help us resonate our voices, to have our stories heard and shared in the systems where ultimately could make a difference, especially in the education system. Education has done wonders, but I believe in most cases, education has been very effective of training people to become efficient as to how they will go about sustaining themselves. But I believe, unfortunately, education has somewhat failed to motivate individuals, no matter what their cultural backgrounds may be, to be the best that they can be. Now, whatever numbers that are among us now, our languages are suffering. Out of the total Mi'kmaq population, for example, only 17% of us are fluent. And we know our brothers and sisters, no matter where they may be, are struggling and trying. But with the lack of resources, we cannot reach out for them. And the resource that I think we adequately need now is this damn technology. Because with so few numbers of our people that are fluent, even if we had $1 zillion tomorrow, it wouldn't be very effective because we wouldn't be able to spread them out to our territory. And for your information, our territory consists Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, part of Maine, part of Quebec, Prince Edward Island, and Newfoundland. It's quite a vast area. And just on travel alone will create an extra hardship. But if we can somehow get support from the general population of persuading the institutions to allow our languages to become official, along with that, the land-based education or knowledge. Because our languages are so embedded, interconnected with the land, that no matter what efforts we put forth or trying to revitalize our languages, we cannot do it without the land-based knowledge. So those two are so interconnected. And we believe if that land-based education was to become official, we can all benefit from it. We can begin to address and put a dent on our food security, our medicine securities, and more than likely, it will also increase the spirit of co-learning. It will mandate each and every one of us of expanding our relationship to our neighbors. Because if we were to grow some of our food, we will end up with surpluses. And we will seek how can we barter and exchange with our neighbors. And if that's something that's in process, just think how much this relationship will expand, in which we will have to depend on each other to support each other and to help each other, in which if any one of us is in need, and to know you are in a relationship with your community, you don't have to concern yourself of what you will be lacking. All you have to do is spend all that energy to recuperate whatever illness that you may be confronted, because your neighbors, your friends, will be there to pull up the slack.
I think, too, what you said about all of us working together, and I think that's important, is that often within Western thought or idea, we're into these silos, and I talk about this a lot, is how can we deal with the whole health of an individual and wellness, and you're just talking about cardiovascular, or you're just talking about lungs, or you're just talking about, so how do you ever see the larger picture? And we used this example earlier. If I was going to study a squirrel, and I'm just looking at the squirrel, and I'm ignoring the food, the nuts that they eat, the tree that the nuts come from, the environment, who they interact with, I'm missing all this very vital, important information, this knowledge about the squirrel and why the squirrel's health is the way it is. So I think this working in silos and this idea that ecological systems as well is that if we pollute our waters here in Newfoundland, well, that's Newfoundland waters. Well, the water doesn't stay in one place, it moves. So this thought process has not worked. It's not working. And if I can be honest, we've been saying things for hundreds of years, and it's time to work together to enact and to listen to the knowledge that's been passed down from generation.
You know, what it should become obvious to all of us now is that those divisions that have been imposed upon us, they were put there for a purpose, to deter us of coming together and working together and planning together. I would like to say that if that had not happened, I believe the state of our environment wouldn't be as such now. That we can still support ourselves for whatever our Creator can provide for us. But we are spending so much time looking at the differences, and we're spending so much energy there, and preventing ourselves from being innovative, of looking at everything from a holistic perspective, not just the problems that are before us, but what created those problems, and how can we mitigate and restore those problems so everything becomes whole again. Because I believe we have been distracted of allowing our non-native creatures to be eradicated. And by doing so, we have put a very burden on our environment, because everything that's here on earth has a purpose. Even the most pesky one, the mosquitoes, they have a purpose. And if the whole system was still intact, we would then bring back the essence of what constitutes a healthy environment, and that's the productive and effective biodiversity. Because it's through that biodiversity that maintains the essence of our natural world to keep regenerating, producing for the ones that need it. So I believe it's about time for let's together, we here in Newfoundland, be the first to breaking our silences and start speaking up for the injustices, social as well as environmental. Because environment is a very source of life in which we all depend upon. And if she is not healthy, how can we be healthy? And what assurance will we have of leaving such a deficit for the people that will come after us? In our case, we're expected to look into the next 7 generations. And if you're curious what these 7 generations represents, we believe 120 years is 1 generation. Why? Because we believe 120 years is a length of time in which a living memory can exist. So when you multiply that by 7, we realize 840 years is forever from a human scale. But from the environmental perspective, it's only a split second of a second. So by extending our vision to that period of time, we will be exercising our inherent responsibilities, why we are here, for in whatever period we may be able to walk upon our beautiful mother, we call her Mother Earth. So I think if we humble ourselves and see what has been put before us to distract us, to mislead us, we are succumbing to become silent and in denial of all those injustices. Because we're all equal. We all have hearts, we all bleed, and we all have voices. So let's not be silent anymore and use those voices of ours to express our dissatisfactions of not allowing those injustices to continue, because someone apparently is using those silences so they can continuously eradicate the very source of life in which we all depend upon. Right now, clean water is such a challenge. Clean air, we're not too sure of. And most importantly, we're not assured that the soil is healthy and productive. And those are the main ingredients of life for all creatures, including us. And again, if she's not healthy, how can we be healthy? So let's depart here tonight with a new vision, with a new objective. We cannot change the past, but we should learn the mistakes that were made in the past, and use those lessons learned to guide us into the future. And use those lessons learned and embrace the uniquenesses that we all bring forth, and for those uniquenesses to be used. So the outcomes will be much more effective. And that effectiveness will not only provide an opportunity for our Mother Earth to regenerate herself, but our future generations will also thank us. And our ancestors will be very happy that finally we have woken up. Thank you.
I know we had spoke earlier about, well, first of all, I want to say I have to give thanks and deep appreciation to our elders and our knowledge keepers or sharers, whatever term they want to use, the ones that continue doing the hard work in our communities, regardless of all the obstacles, all the silence, all the difficulties, and they continue to show up. So I have to give thanks, for them. And just to build on, earlier we were talking about the importance of ceremony, and when we were talking about holistic health and wellness and being able to tap into all these different networks spiritually and these ways of gaining knowledge. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that in terms of the knowledge, as opposed to, we also talked about extracting knowledge in terms of factual versus bringing in these other ways of knowing.
First of all, I think I need to clarify something. The concept that we are using, for example, two-eye seeing. Two-eye seeing is not just inherent to the Aboriginal ways of thinking. We all have two eyes. We all have our own ways of perceiving and projecting and conceptualizing our surroundings. The other thing I like to clarify is when we use that word elders, we're not just referring to our Aboriginal Mi'kmaq elders. Yes, we rely on them to guide us into the future and to remind us that we cannot forget about the past. But in our area, for example, in Cape Breton, we have two organizations. One is called UINR, Unama'ki Institute of Natural Resources, and the other one is CEPI, Collaborative Environmental Planning Initiative. On a regular basis, when we talk about how can we be more effective of maintaining balance and harmony with our natural world, we call upon all elders, our non-native brothers and sisters, and our brothers and uncles from a Mi'kmaq perspective. And we bring them together because the elders, the non-native elders, they've been here for a couple hundred years. So they have accumulated all that knowledge from their perspective. And we need their we need their input. And I'm hoping through these exercises that these two knowledges will be embraced to create a better opportunity for all of us to do the work that is before us. Because the work that is before us is so complex that we need everybody's input, native, non-native, and so on. So this is the message, I believe, that I want to part with you, that I think it's about time that we put those differences aside and transform those differences into a positive, not as a negative. Because those differences that we have are the uniquenesses that we'll bring forth into these conversations. And these uniquenesses will help us and guide us to be a better stewards for the future generations.
Let me ask you a question. We're soon going to open it up a little bit, but Erica, one of the things we talked about was the role of the arts. And I, in our transdisciplinary sustainability program, we've been trying to think about the arts as a way of knowing, or knowing through the arts. And I wondered if you might reflect on that, because I know that in your own PhD research, you went in different directions that you didn't expect. And one of them, I think, was an artistic way of understanding, maybe, and way of expressing. So I don't know if you want to speak to that. Is it?
Yeah. So call it arts, call it grounding myself and allowing, different ways of gaining knowledge. So I initially thought I had to do what was expected in terms of the research and writing a dissertation. And what I found is that I hit this roadblock. So I wrote maybe a couple of pages, 3 pages, maybe 4, and it was like I just couldn't write no more. And it was weeks and weeks and meeting with my supervisor. And I just finally said, I can't write. I don't know what's going on. I'm blocked. And she said, well, don't focus on what you think you need to write. Just do what comes natural. So that's what I did. Instead of focusing on the writing and getting the words on paper, it was just more about grounding myself and the work and like connecting to it. So what happened was throughout that process, I really started reconnecting back with ceremony and doing more stuff in community and hanging out more with like-minded people. And what happened was I just gained knowledge through dreams and through ceremony and experiences. And I started to write and incorporate. And the way that it came out was through imagery, photographs, poetry was a big one. So I started writing, and it was poems and images, and I thought, oh gosh, they're not going to take this very well when I go to meet with the supervisor. But luckily, what I learned is if you surround yourself with the right people, then they only uplift you. They don't put in the roadblocks. So that's what happened. So really, my dissertation and the research work, and also having I had Knowledge Keeper Elder on my committee supporting that as well. Arlene White, Dr. Andrea Simon, they were all involved throughout that whole process, and was really like, you know what you have to do, keep yourself grounded. So having that was really beneficial. So once you release that expectation of what is okay knowledge to present, then it allows yourself to really unfold in the way it's meant to. So that was my experience.
You remember when I said earlier what constitutes a friendship through the exchange of stories. Storytelling is not just oral. Of course, oral is critical to inform each other, not just what we know, what we need to know and see. But there's also another form of storytellers, whether they're musician, artist, craftsperson, or whoever. They also are storytellers, but for a different reason. Because as human beings, we sometimes succumb to stresses. So we need some of these storytellers to release us and to elevate us from these stressful situations that we might be in. And they, in fact, become very therapeutic before we know it. We are dancing and we are laughing. And just think, if those storytellers were not available or were not around, well, how far can we succumb to these stresses? So, without asking anyone, are you stressed? You just go on the premise that with the hustle and bustle of this creation of ours, some people sometimes become overwhelmed. So a musician comes along, a storyteller comes along, a craftsperson comes along, not just to distract you, but to empower you. So the essence of storytelling, it has to be critical as to how we deal with these stresses, how we empower ourselves to be much more innovative. So let's give applause to all these wonderful storytellers that are before us. Thank you.
Erica, I know that there's some examples of your poetry out on the board. I don't know if you wanted to share anything today.
Yeah, sure. So I brought a couple of the poems that I wrote. The first one is Indigenous Colonial Conforming, How to Lose Oneself. Imposter monster. Unceded land on which the institution sits, stone walls and concrete, a place where we fight for a seat. Buckskins, braids, beads, and beliefs. Replace that buckskin with polyester suits, an itch that reminds you of the noxious plants on your skin. Oh, is that how you got the job? Imposter monster, braids, beads, and beliefs. Remove your braids so they don't stare. Speak quietly but loud enough so that they hear. Drop your res slang and use their language. Imposter, monster, beads, and beliefs. Wear your biggest beat it bling today because you want to be seen. Seen beyond your intergenerational trauma, to be understood. Your voice is not just yours, but communities. Imposter, monster, beliefs. Share your worldview, but only the pieces that don't disrupt. Share those beliefs, but wait, we need validation. Follow institutional expectations because this is the way it's always been done. Imposter, monster. Struggle, work harder, be resilient, work harder, be seen, work harder, don't be seen too much, work harder. Overload it, work harder, burn it, work harder, monster. So that was one that I created because I felt when you succumb and you just follow the westernized expectations and you don't ever use your own voice or you don't create space where others welcome you and your knowledge and the ways that you show up, then you're becoming part of this system, this monster that I talk to like my mentors a lot about. It's like I felt as though I was drowning. Like I felt as though I just couldn't keep going the same way. And they said, well, don't buck the system. And so it's what we're here to do. We're here to make people sometimes uncomfortable, but ask them, why are you uncomfortable? Explore that, reflect on it.
Thank you so much for that, Erica. We brought your first image behind you there. Would you tell us about that?
Yeah, so these images just kind of come from the work and the experiences. So being a registered nurse and working in healthcare, I wanted to demonstrate, first of all, I love art, and I love the ability for other people to look at something and take differences away from it. And, but what I created this image for is in healthcare, we often walk by lots of people getting needles, blood work, IVs. No one ever questions it. Very, very seldom will someone say, oh no, don't give me an IV. Is that appropriate? But yet, if someone from community wants to use our medicines to light a smudge or to have them within part of our medicines, our therapy, it's like, oh, I don't know if you can do that. But it's natural plants as part of Mother Earth. It's like, why are we so okay with putting these alternate medicines that are made synthetically, but yet we get questioned when we want to use these natural things? So that was the image that I created.
Do you want us to show the second image?
Sure. So the next one I created because often there's a bunch of thoughts that I had is often if you don't show up with something very stereotypical native, that sometimes you don't get asked if you'd like to incorporate cultural things into your healthcare. Also, oftentimes within my work, the women said that we know what we need, but often we're not asked or we're not part of the conversation or we're talked over as a part of the family who helps make the decisions. So they felt silenced. But I also wanted to represent how they said that their medicines, because they always made me get grounded, like Elder Albert talks about. It's like that love and that positivity. So they always said, but we know our medicine. We have it. It's even though they might not always be open to it, it's there. It's always there for us. So that light, that little burn, you can barely see it there, is always burning in the background. So that was kind of what I was capturing there. I'd love to hear if anyone captured any other thoughts from it, but.
Yeah, what do you think?
Tansi, Dan Murphy. Tansi at Scree for hello. I just want to talk about the integrating of cultural knowledge into the curriculum. I was an environmental educator for my whole life as an author and running the outdoor programs up here in Grossmore National Park. About 6 years ago, I spent 2 years working with the Nitasinao Tribal Council in Peace River. I worked with 10 communities, Trout, Peerless, all the way up north. Worked with the elders, and my job, I don't call it a job, but what I was doing was incorporating contemporary science into traditional land-based camps. But also one thing I was doing was looking at the curriculum outcomes in science from K to 8 and working with the elders, and I put in another column, and in that column was the connections with the land, the connections with the Cree culture. What I learned, of course, was that, you know, there's a vast, well, there's 10,000 years of knowledge that we have not allowed our children to experience. And I always use the example that the name of a plant means nothing. It's how the plant is connected with the world and the land and the landscape. And what I learned from the Cree as I was working with them was that the connection to the land is, and we just talked about the arts, but it involves everything from the spiritual pieces to the art, to the music, to the drum, to the stories. And I think one of the greatest things that we can do for our kids, and I don't know if it's ever going to happen, is if we can just integrate somehow into not just a science curriculum, but across the curriculum, you know, the cultural knowledge of the First Nations people, the stories and so on, because that's the connection. And, you know, the 12 years I taught or ran the outdoor education at Grossmore National Park, it was 12 years of giving kids facts, right? And you need more than facts to connect people to the land. Because if you don't have a connection, then they do nothing when they grow up to be 30 years old. So I just want to say I think it's very, very important that we bring that knowledge into the curriculum, formal education and informal. Thank you.
Sounds like support for the land-based learning, Elder Marshall.
Yeah, but I believe occasionally we have to do some inner reflections. Just where we come from. I saw an image the other day in 1974. There's a family sitting around the table for supper, for a meal. And I see every one of those, the parents, the children, grandparents, all their heads bowed. And you can not just imagine this and see and actually hear how they are expressing their gratitude for the food that they're about to eat. And I'm sure expressing the gratitude that they are there for each other as a family. Let's project that now to 2024 and look at that same image. What do you see? The grandparents, the parents, the children, they all have that electronic gadget in their hands. I'm not suggesting that this technology is bad, but I think we can, together, transform that technology to be much more informative. Things that we may not learn in a classroom, but as elders and grandparents, we can put some of that information in the form of a game, so that knowledge will be consistently transferred. It may not be done, it was done in years ago, but we can utilize that technology to help us of conveying those principles of why we are here. So this is something, yes, I really appreciate that point, because we need to look at not just ourselves, but our natural world in a holistic perspective. Not just what we can extract, what we can use, but rather what we must do of maintaining the integrity of that area, so that the outcomes will benefit all. And that benefit will not just be for the humanity again, but it would also benefit to the very source of life in which we all depend upon. We need her more than she needs us. And I think if we do some inner reflections, we can extract those lessons from the past and use those lessons to guide us to the direction that we all need to go. And that is, encourage everyone to be the best that they could be, whether that person is a storyteller, a teacher, a artist, or a craftsperson. They do serve a vital service to us and to everyone by singing to the beauty of our, we call, Mausit Kamugoi, all of creation. Because we solely depend upon her, not just for our very existence, but for our well-being. And because if we are not well, in whether we're not well physically, cognitively, emotionally, or spiritually, how can we excel? Because you're not well. So let's use every means we have to help people to reach that wellness from their cultures and from their understanding. Because in our understanding, we can define wellness by maintaining balance with our physical, with our cognitive, our emotional, and spirituality. Because spirituality is something that I don't think has ever been included in any of our education systems. And this is where I believe science has somehow was made to be just the arm of destruction. Because science could only deal with facts. And if we discount human insights, humans see everything as being physical and spiritual. And everything that's physical and spiritual is alive. And anything and everything that's alive needs our appreciation, respect, love, and care. So that's the transformation I believe we can embrace and use that as a beacon or as a model, how we go forward together to ensure that not only our generation will benefit, but also for the future. I can't stress enough of making sure that these young ones will be informed in a good way, not just to be able to sustain themselves in this technological world, but they will be able to move forward with confidence of to be the best of who they are, and by giving them the opportunity to use those. And we as adults can be the knowledge navigators for them, to guide them, using the lessons from the past, and to help those to guide them to ensure that life is not just about playing, but also maintaining and fulfilling our responsibilities. Today, I'm sure a lot of us can see that because of economic situations we're in, we cannot spend as much time to our kids or to our grandchildren, because we have to be so busy maintaining the wellness of that family through employment. And because of economic situations, we now have to spend much more time than what our ancestors had to do to maintain the standard of living. And who's suffering? Our kids. So let's make an effort. Let's put the pressure on the education system to fill that gap for us by allowing them and asking them to fulfill that void in which the working parents cannot do in their time, because they now have to spend some time to provide for that family and to maintain a quality of life for them. So the long hours at work now has to be as such that they will be depriving the children to grow as they were meant to be. So technology is a wonderful knowledge and tool we need. But let's not allow that technology to lead us in the wrong direction, but use it for what it was meant to be, to help us and to enhance our efforts. So the outcomes will be our children, our grandchildren, and the ones that are not even born yet will have just as much of an opportunity to see everything from both eyes as we were all intended to be.
I think I heard a couple of times you mentioned that everyone has a gift, and another elder, I think it was Elder Andrew Simon, mentioned that a couple of times in conversations, that everyone has a gift, and that we have to recognize that in everybody. And really, it took me quite a while to feel any confidence because of the history and because of what was told to me, the community I came from. And that confidence had to be built up by the ones that were surrounding me and uplifting me along that journey. And really, it took a while for me to feel as though I had that voice to be able to share. And I'll share the last poem now. And this poem really speaks to that moment and that connection to say, because I've said to Dr. Elder Kelvin White before, like, this is really hard. To be community, but to work in academia, to be the voice, I call it ice panning all the time in life, but especially in between these systems that oppress, but then I'm working with them, like to try to make change. It becomes really heavy. And I know lots of people experience it, but I remember he said, well, that's what we fought for. And it's going to be hard. But that's why we did it, so that you would have a spot at the table. You can be our voice. And that really struck. I was like, oh my God, that's a lot. It's a heavy stuff I got to deal with. But I turned it into the work that I do. So this poem is called War of Words. Stop firing the rockets which kill and oppress. Look at words through our eyes, and you'll think of oneself less. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. A mantra that would never truly let me be free. So when I heard good for nothing squaw, I kept going, trying not to fall. But how can we truly be when these words had us creating this wall? The wall of protection or one of just shame? Please believe me when I say it is easier to blame. Blame those who fired non-physical weapons of destruction. I've learned does nothing but diminish my light and ability to function. Too harsh, some say. Words are not guns and don't leave one to die. Tell that to ancestors gifted with the infected blankets who told those white lies. The past, leave it all there. More words with a kick. More words to continue making us sick. Healthcare providers use words to paint a picture of need, but did anyone consider how else we could be freed? Use words with the understanding of the power they hold. Use them but ask, but why? And not just do what has always been told. Stop firing the rockets which can kill and oppress. Look at words through our eyes, and you'll think of oneself less. With the hope to bring back, that's what this Indigenous nurse did, was go back to school and attempt to tell words that were once hid. But taking this path isn't simple and straight. I must remember to use words with kindness and not hate. Balancing again upon this wall, I am trying to do something to benefit all. Be true to oneself, community, and nation, while writing the words to meet institutions' expectations. Writing this paper is more than words to a page. It's about all the heartache, suffrage, and pain. It's about acknowledging the weapons that words were in the past while knowing that they are still firing, but maybe not as fast. So while fear creeps around me, invading my space, I stop and pray, smudging this place. I pray using words that give me that calm. I use words to have a new dawn. That Indigenous healthcare providers advancing education can take the weapons back to our nations. Advance in this war of words through the knowledge of our ways, while learning how words are weapons that we can use these days. Stop firing the rockets that kill and oppress. Look at words through our eyes, and you'll think of oneself less.
You know, that kind of reminds me of what sort of a declaration that I must allow to lead me in the future. By reminding myself daily that nature has rights, we humans have responsibility. And with that responsibility, I think we should never remain silent in the future to remind the ones that are causing these harms that laws of man cannot and should not supersede the laws of nature, because ultimately she's the one that's going to dictate to us, and we will not be the ones to be in a position of. We've tried for the last couple of 100 years, or last centuries at least, trying to dictate to her. And look at the state in which we're in now. So let's pledge within ourselves that we're not going to allow anyone to use the laws of man to supersede the laws of nature, because she has to run on her own terms. And we, humans, will forever endeavor of only exercising our responsibilities to be the better stewards, so the future generations will benefit our actions, our efforts. Thank you.
Walaliak, for all of your words tonight, your words are potent, powerful, compassionate. For me, they are medicine. And I'm wondering if now is a good moment to hear some comments or questions from the community here.
Hi, it's on. Diluisi Joe Walalan. I have a question for Elder Albert, and it's. I'd like to hear your perspective on. You spoke about 7 generations and this idea that we need to be thinking forward 840 years ahead. Why is it that you think so many around the world, especially those with power to make big change, lack the ability and the foresight to see next year, a year from now? I think, a lot of us think about our next generation and our children and the importance of what we do on the earth and the impacts that will have on them. But I'm interested in your perspective on why so many lack the ability and that foresight.
Well, I think we all have to admit, as human beings, we're going to make mistakes. But since we have something that no other relatives have, and that's the cognitive mind. And if and when, individually or collectively, if some action compromises the ecological integrity of the area, causes harm to the very source of life in which we all depend upon, let's engage our minds individually and collectively, and most importantly, harness that wonderful knowledge called science to mitigate at least the harm that's been done, so that we can be assured that every action that we have taken will benefit this next 840 years of generations, because we will know for sure with that collective effort our environment will once again may not be pristine, but at least will be productive, in which it can sustain all life form. And I think that's what that lesson is all about. Yes, 840 years is forever, but our objective should extend at least to that length of period, that length of time, because we don't know who's going to be in the future, nor how many will be in the future. But at least we can rest assured when our time ends here on earth that we've done everything possible of ensuring that the future will be one of which will not only be able to sustain that future generation, but also they will be able to learn and to hear the music, the beautiful music that this nature of ours plays upon us to keep us happy, well-fed, and healthy. So these are not just analogies. These are reminders of what we must do now to ensure that our actions will not cause negative reactions to the future. Because that's our ultimate inherent responsibility, not only to provide our present generations, our present young people, but also our efforts have to transcend to the future generations that are not even born yet. And I believe we can now leave this beautiful earth knowing we did the best that we can, and that our efforts will benefit the ones that will be coming behind us. That's the only way that I can answer that question, because we don't know what the future may bring. But we can at least assume and plan that whether the past generations, the present generations, what they will need will be a clean air, clean drinking water, and a fertile soil. Because without those main ingredients, no creature, humans or otherwise, can continue to exist. If we don't do something now, who's to say what may happen? Let's not focus on what may happen, but at least be encouraged that we're going to do everything humanly possible of ensuring that our efforts will benefit the ones that will come after us. So that's the lesson that I draw from that analogy of ensuring the next 7 generations will benefit our efforts. And that's the best answer I can give, my friend.
Can I just add to that, just to build off what you said? I think it's ingrained into the culture, right? So not everyone thinks the same way. And I often say my community ethics supersede the ethics within the institution, within the other structures in society. So if big corps or individuals don't have that same ethical obligation, then I don't see them feeling the need to act or do different beyond the impacts of today. Maybe, like I always say, like, if community's not happy with me, then that is like detrimental to me and my well-being. So that has a major impact on the choices I make, as opposed to someone else who don't maybe feel same responsibility. So a lot of it's entwined in our responsibilities, I think, and what we've been taught, but that's just my thoughts.
Don't be shy now. If we don't have the answer, we'll get them for you. I know Laura is dying for a question. Let's hear it, Laura.
No pressure. I love what was accomplished here tonight. I love what you shared. I love what Dr. Samms-Hurley has shared. What I'd like to see and what I get are two different things. But since you asked me and put the mic in my hand, it is my dream and my vision that this become a strong foundation for all our area, and we grow from it, but that you both come back again and share more, but also bring it into all communities. Like tonight, it was in Corner Brook and it was online, but bring it outside of Corner Brook sometime to Flat Bay area, St. George, Bay St. George area, and have you go there for the people who like in person and don't use online. So I'll do that shout out for everybody online. But let's grow from this. Your knowledge is gold. And you coming here and sharing from your heart is very much appreciated. So I would like to see you come back again and for us to grow from here, but grow united and do that interweave that you referred to, and us all come together instead of the silos, which was mentioned, and the cliques. Let's get rid of it and let's focus on what we have in common, not our differences. Because every single one of us started in this world with our one thing that we all had in common is we had to learn our ABCs. And it starts with we all need effective airway. We all need to breathe and have effective breathing. We all need circulation, our blood circulating to our hearts. You mentioned the heart and the woman, and we all bleed red. So let's focus on what we have in common, and let's grow from tonight, and let's grow together. And that's my dream moving forward.
I know personally that's not a problematic for me, because with all the welcoming that I have received while I'm here in Newfoundland, I have to do a lot of pondering whether I want to go back home or not.
So should I get the bed ready down there?
And you know, I believe we have an advantage here. Newfoundland is not as heavily populated as every other provinces. So I believe together we can create something unique. And that uniqueness will not only benefit the people here in Newfoundland, but also will benefit others across this turtle island. And we can develop something that can be used as a model for the other provinces and for the other areas to begin this journey forward as to how can we embrace each other with the special gifts that we bring forth and to utilize those gifts so everyone will benefit, not just humanity, but for the forest, but especially for our non-native relatives. They need our help the most now. They cannot defend themselves. So they need intervention from us. So let's extend our open arms to them and do everything humanly possible of creating harmony among ourselves and searching for the uniquenesses that each and every one of us have and put those uniquenesses to work so the outcomes will benefit all. So thank you.
I'll pause for a moment to welcome any more comments or questions from the audience, and I'd love to hear from our guests on stage again. But I also invite us soon to continue this conversation in the beautiful art gallery space over some food together. Is there any other comments or questions that you'd like to put forward now? Yeah, thank you. We've got two. Okay, great. Or three. Okay, you know, more behind you.
Great. I have a son, he's 21 years old now. When he was 3 years old, he was watching Dora Explorer on TV. He was going around at that age speaking Spanish. So we didn't realize what was going on. I hear him talking, we thought it was just gibberish first. And then we started realizing, okay, like, what are you saying? He said, it's Dora. He said, I'm speaking with Dora. Right? So it's easy to, with the younger children, to start picking it up from there. Like you're saying with games and things like that, same thing at the mentality of the younger kid generations now. This is where they are. Like you said, if we start with what they have and start building off of that, I mean, and same with us as families, if we're a part of that, to help them say, I guess that's their reality really. And our reality is doing our part for them to learn. So their reality is seeing what we can supply for them, what, say, not so, they don't know what's out there because it's only by what we're really telling them. So if we end up putting something out there that's in front of them that they can enjoy, say games, whatever it is, say whether it's cartoons, whatever, like our younger generations are the ones that will be making the difference for us.
Is this on? Okay. I find it interesting when we talk about the next 7 generations. And for us Indigenous people, that's just the way it is. We always talk about the next 7 generations. It seems like in the Western mind, it's more about my generation. That's it. What can I take of this place? And what's left after I'm gone doesn't matter because I'm not here. And for us Indigenous people, we always think to the future. And the way I like to think about it as well is, like Albert said, 840 years, that's forever. And when you look at the fact that if we teach the next generation that they have to leave something for the next 7 generations, and then they teach the following generation that they have to leave something for the next 7 generations, and so on and so on and so on. Well, then it just keeps going. It's not just 7 generations from now. It's 7 generations from 7 generations from 7 generations. So it is forever. And I have so much respect for our elders like Albert, like Calvin White, like Mizell Joe. I can just keep going on and on and on of how many of our elders we have that have fought for us. They've fought for recognition. They've fought for us to keep our place. They fight to educate all of us of how important Mother Earth is and how we have to teach the next generations to take care of her. And Albert speaks with some urgency when he says that we have to act now. And our elders are getting quite elderly, and we're losing them one by one. They're going on to the other side. So it really is up to all of us. Sometimes as people, we find ourselves saying, well, what can I do? I'm only one person. Just Qalipu alone, Qalipu being one part of the Mi'kmaq Nation, the Qalipu band is the 2nd largest band in all of Canada. And when you include all the rest of our relatives throughout Mi'kmaqi, we're quite the force. You know, if we could get all of our relatives throughout Nova Scotia and New Brunswick and PEI and Quebec and Maine to all come to Newfoundland one time for a visit, I'm pretty sure we could take this island over. And then we could really accomplish some good. But I'd just like everybody to think about the urgency that Albert spoke of, that we must do something about this. We can't just go on and think to ourselves, well, there's nothing I can do, and we're just going to have to let industry come in and take over our province and destroy our lands and destroy our waters, because it's going to be a few jobs there for some people. Well, in a few short years, those jobs are going to be gone, and the next generation is not going to know none of the stuff that we grew up with, all the beauty of nature and of fresh water and of clean air and of fertile soil. I'm a member of a men's group here in Corner Brook, and some of my brothers are here tonight. And you know, I think this is kind of a good way for us to go, guys. We got to lead off in this direction, you know. Every time I speak with Elder Calvin White, he's kind of persuading us that, you know, there's a fight that we have to take up, right? We have to fight for our rights. We have to fight to take care of our land. And you know, Albert is reinforcing that. And I think that's something that all of us have to do, and we all need to come together as one, and we have to start really taking some strong steps forward without it.
A couple more thoughts and comments or questions, and then we'll go have some food together.
Sorry for speaking again. I think I mentioned about educating the young ones. I think we can make powerful steps by exposing the older ones to cultural aspects of the Mi'kmaq culture. One thing we did in Slave Lake was offer sweat lodges to the Munya, to the white people, to come down. So just the introduction to ceremony at the very basic level, right? And I think too, there was a very keen interest on land-based traditional camp, okay, being taken out on the land by elders. Because often it's not telling people the knowledge, but having them experience it. And I think if you can bring about subtle changes, for example, I give, and I'm not Mi'kmaq or Cree, but I leave tobacco when I shoot a moose here in Newfoundland. Because I was told by an elder in Wabasca, he said, Dan, anybody can leave tobacco. You know, you can leave a gift. It's just showing respect to us, but also respect to the land. So that experience, you know, I brought back, and I do it. And my brother-in-laws laugh sometimes at me. They don't laugh now, but they did at the very beginning. But, you know, little things make a big difference to others, right, and open their eyes.
Thank you. Appreciate your encouragement and sense of urgency for us to act and do what we can do. But we think of that in an academic sense sometimes. Jeff mentioned, you know, big developments, or, you know, production, industrial production as a whole, globally. You know, academically, we'll look at environmental impact assessments, policy development. How can we mitigate the risk? And we think, yeah, okay, we're doing everything we should be doing. We're doing the good work. But realistically, you know, we're all part of the problem, and we are driving that capitalistic machine. The consumerism is absolutely rampant. And with that is just production of more goods that goes into the landfills. And so I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on, like, what needs to change for the social norms to adjust for us to realize that we just can't sustain the way we are living.
Well, my number one objective would be, and there varies, for those of us that have reached an advanced years, we no longer have this energy, nor the high level of sense of curiosity. Other than our children and our young people, they have all that energy, and they're so overwhelmed with curiosity. Let's use an analogy what the Army does to prepare soldiers. You're going to be taken to basic camp first, basic training. Let's use that analogy and apply it to our own children. Prepare them with as much information and wisdom that they will need, so that not only will they become effective, but also be much more cognizant and aware of how the world is being treated. And they'll use every skill and knowledge that they will have of ensuring that the mistakes that have been made in the past will not be allowed to be repeated. And because they have the energy, and they have the knowledge, and they're so experts in manipulating this technology, so far advanced than anyone can imagine. And they can utilize that technology to expand the stories across this country, why there is a need for all of us to take that first baby step of moving forward in a very productive and protective steps for the source of life in which we all depend upon. I'm glad it was mentioned that the state of our environment, we actually are in crisis. And if that crisis is not addressed now, I think not so much what would the outcome will be, but it also would be reflective on us individually. And we will see, why did we remain silent? Why did we remain in denial of all those injustices, environmentally or socially? Because we need every human being to have a role of ensuring that every action will not cause negative reactions to the very source of life in which we all depend upon. And that energy can be transformed with hope, so that we can negate the state of being hopeless. Let's transform our actions with faith, a faith that we have done everything humanly possible of ensuring that our efforts will benefit the ones that are not even born yet. And I still reiterate, we have to spend as much time possible not to depend on the institutions, to set the kind of a foundation our young children will need. Yes, they will get education so that they can sustain themselves in this technological world. But we as parents, grandparents, uncles and aunties, fulfill our responsibilities and begin to prepare, because they are the future. They want to take over one way or the other. Let's make sure their efforts will be positive. Thank you for that.
I'd like to say on behalf of the team here at Rotary Arts Centre, a heartfelt Walaliach to all of you for being here today. And then I'd like to suggest that I pass the mic over to Kelly for some thank yous, and thank you to the team at Grenfell as well, and that The last words tonight after that come from both of our guests as you use our words to close the ceremony, so to speak, of our experience today. Thank you, Kelly.
Just thanks to everyone, particularly to our speakers, of course, but also everyone that has helped make everything we've been doing this week possible. We've had Elder Marshall on a very busy schedule, and it continues over the next couple of days, meeting with a lot of different folks and chiefs and others that are here that have contributed. So thanks to everyone and for being here and part of the week and all the activities that we've been doing and being here this evening. So.
Okay, last thoughts from our fantastic presenters, and then you're going to cheer really loud for them, and then we're going to go have some fun in the gallery. You got it? Okay, great. I pass to you, Dr. Erica Samms-Hurley or Dr. Elder Albert Marshall.
Elder Marshall?
Yes, all I want to say is that let's leave here tonight and embrace something that's going to be overarching and allow love and compassion, faith, not doubts, so that we will be better prepared to tackle the issues that we don't even know what they would look like. Because we will know that we are moving together with one spirit, and we'll use that spirit to guide us and to strengthen us so that the outcomes that we will do and leave. And when our day ends here, we can reflect on that and say, we did the best we could of ensuring for any negative reactions we have created, we try to mitigate them and restore them. Because we're not perfect. We're going to make mistakes. But let's not allow those mistakes to be undone and unsaid. So again, let's leave from here and allow love and compassion to be our guiding light, to be the beacon to guide us at where we need to go. Thank you.
I should have went first, but now I have to follow that. But I just want to say, for me, I want to say just to take away maybe that we are not just a Mi'kmaq from Newfoundland or Cook. We are part of Mi'kma'ki, and that we have to remember that as well as we move forward from here on, and to keep this relationship with our brothers and sisters strong. And I'd like to say again, I'm humbly thankful to have this opportunity. The little Bay girl from Mount Moriah who spent lots of time in Benwas Cove and Black Duck Siding and Stephenville is in awe and disbelief to be sitting here next to Dr. Elder Albert Marshall. So thank you, and Walali Oak to everyone.
Give it up for our guests.